We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Drafting the top 10 of the 2020 NFL draft. And just 10 weeks in, I feel like it's very easy to overreact to what we've seen and just throw like Michael Onwenu, number 1 overall. He's the highest graded rookie. Justin Jefferson at 2. How are you tempering expectations here, or tempering how far you're going with what you've seen over the 10 weeks? Because you have to keep your pre-draft evaluation somewhat.
Yeah. No, I think that's it. It's more just like these 8, 9 games, 9, 10 games that we've seen so far this season is not all I'm basing this off of. Like it would be very easy to just like I said, put our highest graded rookies, but there's still just like the final year of college for someone is not all you base them off of. Like that you want as much information as possible. And so I do think, especially at certain positions, quarterback being one of them, that you go back to what you saw pre-draft, because I think that, you know, when you need a big sample size like that college sort of production still, and what they did there still plays.
I know we just jumped right into the redraft. I know you're visiting, or we want to get like a personal story before we start here. Holidays, meeting the family of the new girlfriend. Are you excited for it? What are some strategies? I feel like a lot of people, that's a high pressure situation for a lot of people. I know you're Mr. Cool. I know you're Mr. Cool, but any strategies, any tips?
It doesn't even move the needle for me. I think my strategy is, so I'm actually going to stay at her parents' place in Cleveland.
Oh, and you're staying
family's place in Cleveland, which is a big play. And so that one, I'm not sure how I'm going to approach it. I think I'm going to be quiet. I don't want to be my usual, maybe sometimes inappropriate self. That could
stay away from the Miller Lights, dude.
That's all. I'm just going to
racking up like 20 Miller Lights.
I'm going to have a drink, but I'm not going to drink, and I'm just going to play the nice guy.
I like that.
You know,
I definitely like that.
And then they can find out that I'm a monster later on.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I have one time I met it was like a high school or something, a high school girlfriend. I met her parents for the first time. And it was cool. I was Mr. Cool. 16-year-old me, freaking confidence galore. I go in the recliner. It's been like an hour. I go in the recliner, I go to kick it up. I push the thing on the side the wrong way and fucking snap it. I snap the damn recliner thing. And the dad is livid. I'm like, I'm a piece of shit, I guess. And then like we spend the entire rest of the time like trying to figure out how to glue it back. It was horrendous.
Man, I can't imagine. I've never had like a girlfriend's parents be like upset at me.
Yeah.
That has to be the most awkward feeling.
It was very awkward.
Yeah.
Because like I was apologizing a ton, but the dad wasn't having it.
Was, yeah.
And like the mom was like, "Dude, you're fine. It's just a recliner."
He's
blah
nuts.
blah blah. But it ended up being like a longer relationship, and it was still broken when I ended up breaking up with her like a couple years later. It's like, you know, I made a lasting impact on her. And let's not get into that.
Okay.
Mike. Are you serious?
Right, you also realize you just described the scene. I don't know if you guys have seen Saving Silverman.
I don't think so.
Oh, maybe I'll stitch that in.
Stitch in some Silverman.
When he breaks the lug nut, you basically just described that whole scene.
Oh, take mine. Give her the old sweeperoo. Yep, old Ethel. We've been through a lot of games together. Enjoy. Let me help you with it. She's got multiple reclining positions.
That's okay. I can be support.
No, that's all right. It's a little stuck.
No, it's fine.
Takes a little muscle.
It's okay.
Come on, you fucking piece of shit.
I don't need. I
got it. No trouble.
Oh,
hey, are you okay? Hey. What happened? You know what? I think yep, it's the lug nut. Fixed it. Please, have a seat.
I'll stand.
Did you steal that story off?
I did not.
I was gonna say I feel like he maybe did, but
I've never seen that movie.
It's funny, so it's good excuse anyway.
Yeah, it was. That relationship was weird. But your first relationship in high school, you're still figuring some things out. I don't think about it, Mike. Why you got to bring that up?
Just asking.
All right, let's get back into the redraft here. Go ahead and kick me off here with number 1. Or how do you want to do this? Do you want to go, I go one, you go one, we go down the list? I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Who did you have the Cincinnati Bengals taking?
I went Joe Burrow. I think they stay with Joe Burrow. I don't think you have any buyer's remorse here if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. And it's not like there's a number of reasons. Justin Herbert's looked great, but I think like Joe Burrow, the level of accuracy we've seen from him, and the stat that I love to go back to is that intermediate accuracy. When he is throwing to that intermediate level, he's the 5th most accurate quarterback in the NFL. Like the other guys in that like top 5 to 10 range are all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Brady's in there, Breeze is in there, Rodgers is in there, Matt Ryan. Like those are the guys. That's how you win, is to be able to hit those throws on a consistent basis. Joe Burrow already does that as a rookie. I think to me, the rest will come, and the situation around him, as we'll talk about with Jordan Palmer a little later on here in this. The situation, once that improves, I think you'll see Joe Burrow take his game to a ceilingless level.
Yeah, I also have Joe Burrow going to the Cincinnati Bengals at 1. I think some people, we've talked about him having the steak, Justin Herbert having the sizzle. The highlight reel for Herbert has looked better, but with Burrow, he is performing better on early downs. He's performing better from a clean pocket. His accuracy is better, more consistent, and that has better predictive power for future performance than winning under pressure like Justin Herbert is right now, winning on third downs, high leverage situations. I think also what Jordan brings up that's great is we talk about the arm talent. We talk about Joe Burrow not having a rocket arm. And he says when you don't have, it's not a prerequisite, it's a nice to have, which I think is a fair comment from Jordan Palmer. But he says when he brings up like, but you have to have something else. And he said the other thing that Joe Burrow has is confidence, wits, smarts, anticipatory throwing, that type of stuff, which I think is important. Number 2. Go ahead.
Good story about Joe Burrow. If we're talking about my girlfriend now, she lives 3 houses down from Joe Burrow.
Oh my goodness. So
right?
she's rich.
Her family is.
That's look at
she's
you.
She's
where
going.
I might jump
She said
to.
she's going to. Her sister said she's going to send packages there, and then knock on the door and say, "I accidentally sent my packages to your place," and see if she can make a play.
That sounds kind of weird.
I know, right?
Are we describing another scene from a movie, Quinn? That sounds kind of scary.
That's
yeah.
actually
Oh,
a
sorry,
good
I
play,
meant
though.
to send these to my house, but
And it's
hey,
like
Joe.
lingerie. No,
Dude, you're gonna lose your girlfriend to Joe Burrow.
I might.
freaking love it.
Hopefully Joe stays with his girlfriend. Joe, please don't break
Doubt
up
it.
there.
Doubt it. Sounds like he's already making moves. Washington football team. Who do you have them taking it to?
I have them going, and maybe this is an overreaction, and he didn't look great this past week against the Dolphins, but Justin Herbert. I just think it'd be difficult for me to see like this level of play, and now they haven't won a lot of games, and again, they haven't surrounded him with much in the way of help and play calling, but the big time throws, man. He's top 10 already in big time throws as a rookie. Now Baker Mayfield was too. So there's no sure thing, but I think I've seen more than enough to say that, hey, the concerns I had about him at Oregon in terms of being willing to take those chances, he just didn't at Oregon, and he didn't necessarily have the receivers he has now with the Chargers. The concerns I had about that, completely gone. Completely gone. I think he is a guy who's more than willing to, but he just it's the trust factor that was missing in college. So I think that's the thing that, and I loved his arm talent coming out, and I think that's really shined. Still worry about him pressure situations when we get crowds coming back. That's kind of when he crumbled, was when like things got really
Rowdy.
Like I said, the blood pressure started rising. Yeah, rowdy. We'll see, but I think more than enough at this point we've seen I'd bump him up over Tua.
Wow. That's crazy.
Right?
I mean, but I also
I don't
think though, and I think you brought up a good point there, is that the concerns we had about Justin Herbert, he's largely answered. Not the crowd factor, not like can he be, the it factor when the lights shine brightest. He hasn't won, a ton of football games for the Los Angeles Chargers, but the arm talent we knew was happening. What we didn't see is the risk, the grittiness that we've seen late in games, him trying to, win this game, because he's had a handful of like potential game-winning drives where the opposite side of the ball kind of lets up and they don't end up winning those football games. He's gotten really big leads against teams. I agree that he's answered a lot of pre-draft concerns. Also, my girlfriend, remote, she lives in LA, 3 houses down from Justin Herbert, which is pretty sweet. You don't know her. She goes to a different school, but I sometimes talk to her on FaceTime.
She sounds great.
She's great.
Can't wait to meet her.
Number 2, I didn't have as big of an overreaction. I stuck to our pre-draft evaluation a bit more, and I went Tua Tagovailoa to the Washington football team, where we mocked Tua to the Washington football team a ton. Did not recommend taking Chase Young over a
Technically
quarterback.
at the time they were not the football team.
They weren't the football team yet, but now they are. But Tua Tagovailoa has looked good in recent weeks. I thought he looked really good over the past 2 weeks. And I still think there's reason to be concerned about the hip. There's reason to be concerned that injuries could derail this whole start that he's had. Mm-hmm. But the pre-draft evaluation was very accurate. more accurate than Justin Herbert was, and all those kind of predictive, stable metrics. Very good at Alabama. I think Tua Tagovailoa will continue to be really good for Miami, and he's already doing it with a bad offensive line, and I think an overrated receiving corps. Dare I say it, Dolphins fans?
Oh,
Preston Williams and Devontae Parker are overrated.
I think Devontae's good.
I think they're both
still hesitant on it. I just don't think they're complete.
And Devontae Parker can be good.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's like very good.
Okay. Yeah,
and I think I still and Jakeem Grant might be the best receiver on that team.
Okay.
What's up?
Now you're getting crazy.
I was hanging out with Eric maybe too much. He said Jakeem Grant's kind of like Tyreek Hill. That is a bad take. However, Jakeem Grant has some juice, and I really like what he brings to that football team. Either way, Mike Gesicki has not lived up to the expectation. Adam Shaheen gets more targets than that. Durham Smythe or whatever gets more targets than Mike Gesicki in some games. I think the receiving corps is a bit overrated. I think they can still add around Tua Tagovailoa, and I think he has a lot of what you want for when you do build a supporting cast, when you do follow Jordan Palmer's model of building a good situation around him like the Bills did with Josh Allen. I think Tua Tagovailoa could be a great quarterback, and that's why I have the football team taking him at 2.
Yeah, Gesicki really snaked a bunch of people in fantasy.
Absolutely.
That week 2 game. People were like, okay, there it is. The guy, 100+ yards, week 2. He's going to be the dude. No, I'm just, so at number 3, I don't even have the Lions going to I don't know. The injury stuff scares me, and fear the Lions, Giants with quarterback potential. You have something there. I don't think you need to go chasing on a guy like Tua, who I think is very good. Do I ever think he's going to be top 5 perennially in the NFL? I don't think so. I think he's kind of like Dak Prescott range, is like where his upshot is of ending up. So
Dak Prescott's pretty good though.
Dak Prescott's very good, but at the same time, you have like I said, the Lions and Giants have some hope, and the Giants also could hope for a high pick next year to draft someone.
Who do you have the Lions take?
So I have the Lions going Chase Young. I still, again, the pre-draft eval on him is very high. We're going to talk a little later about him and this, how he's not been near, Nick Bosa coming out, has not dominated whatsoever, but he's been good for a rookie still. And I think that the tools are off the charts, and I'm taking them if I'm the Lions because goddamn they need edge help.
How bad rookie defensive grades are this year is crazy because Chase Young is the highest graded rookie defender, but no rookies on the defensive side of the ball I think are earning grades above 81, 82 so far this year.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Any of them that have played at least 200 snaps. But on the offensive side of the ball, you have guys like Justin Jefferson, Michael Onwenu. I think it's much easier, and we've said this before, much easier on the offensive side of the ball as a rookie to come in with an abbreviated offseason, no preseason, than it is on defense, because naturally defense is reactionary and trying to react to the speed of the NFL with very little reps. We talk about this with Palmer too. He did the math. He maths it out in the interview. He's like, so you missed 3 OTAs, 5 mini camps, maybe 10 or whatever. It's like at the end of it, like you are so far behind the 8 ball trying to get into this season. And he was largely saying that for Joe Burrow, but like on the defense side of the ball, I think it's worse. And I think that's why we've seen Chase Young. Yes, he's the highest grade defender, but I still think that it's going to be a while before you can really like feel good about your takes on some of these rookies coming out on defense.
We also say like a lot of rookie defenders struggling. Defenses are struggling across the NFL.
True.
Like they're going to set the record by I think 2.5 points or something for most points per game average in the NFL. Just because no hard counts, whatever, no fans. Like it is not a year to be a defender.
They're not calling holding penalties. The only penalty that's up this year, the stat from Sam Monson, is defensive pass interference.
Jeez, which
is crazy. Like up year over year from a percentage standpoint. That's wild. I have the Detroit Lions chasing the hotter sauce, Justin Herbert at 3.
Okay. Yeah.
I think and that doesn't necessarily mean that he would start over Matt Stafford, but I do think you could see a similar situation where the doctor stabs Stafford in the lung and then Justin Herbert gets an opportunity. You never know how it could work. But I do think that the Detroit Lions drafting at 3, I think they benefit more from adding Justin Herbert with Matthew Stafford and what he's done for that football team. I think Justin Herbert is the better pick.
See, I think the days of like what the Packers did last year, get Jordan Love, and 3 or 4 years down the line, he's our guy. I think that's gone to a degree. Like I think there's so much quarterback talent. There's so much more coming in this next year. You got 5 or whatever guys. 2022 looks loaded. You got Sam Howell, number 1 pick, Keaton Slovis, according to Anthony Trash, apparently, who's definitely not going to be the number 1 pick in my eyes. You have Spencer Rattler. Like there's multiple quarterback classes in a row now. I think that's just the new normal with how much passing has evolved at the younger levels with like 7-on-7 camp circuits, that sort of thing. Just quarterback training in general starts at a younger age. I think that's like you're you're not hurting. You don't need to waste a premium pick here. This would be, Chase Young's a premium player that you're passing up for someone who could be this incremental difference to Matt Stafford. I think you can still win with Matt Stafford. You just need a better roster there too, though.
Really?
Yeah.
You think Matt Stafford's going to be the quarterback for the Lions over the next 2 to 3 years? Are they not moving on from Matt Stafford? Interesting.
We'll see.
Interesting. All right, who do you have the Giants taking it for?
Number 4, I think we touched on this a tad on the Monday pod, Tristan Wirfs. The redraft said he's a top 5 pick. He's the top tackle in a redraft. Goes to the Giants here. Hand up, we got it wrong in the debate between Andrew Thomas and Tristan Wirfs. I'd take Tristan Wirfs 10 times out of 10 this time now.
Absolutely.
And Giants would too.
I have the Giants taking Chase Young. That's how my board kind of fell out. Chase Young, best defensive player, pre-draft evaluation, had him what? Number 2, number 3 player in the draft. Number 4, Giants sprint that card in.
All right, Dolphins at 5. This is where I go to. So they still get their guy.
Fantastic. Good for them. 5, I have Tristan Wirfs. I feel like we're kind of going back and forth here, but Tristan Wirfs is far and away. You said it on the last week's or Monday's podcast that he should be offensive rookie of the year. He won't. They don't have stats for tackles like they do running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. But Tristan Wirfs has been an arm and a leg, the best offensive tackle in the rookie class, and you could argue the most successful, most dominant rookie offensive player.
Yes, I will argue that. So
yeah, I have him going to the Dolphins at 5.
And they got Austin Jackson, great. They got Robert Hunt on the right side, great. I would still take an offensive tackle if I'm them next year. Like I'm in position to draft Penei Sewell. I'm drafting Penei Sewell.
Absolutely.
They still need help there. So yes, I would go. I would agree with you there. On to number 6, got the Chargers. No Herbert, no Tua, no quarterback available for them. I'm going Mekhi Becton then.
Interesting.
I think he's a guy who's, again, moved up a ton from our pre-draft, how we felt about him. He's just been very good now when healthy. Injuries have been an issue with him, and at his size, that is something you would worry about. A guy that's like you're just carrying a lot of weight, like your knees and their joints at 370 pounds might not last as long as a guy who's 310 pounds. So that's just a thing that could be an issue for him. So we'll see how that goes. But man, he's been very good himself in his own right.
Yeah, I have Mekhi Becton into my top 10, but not at 6 to the Los Angeles Chargers. I have Justin Jefferson, highest graded rookie. I think behind Michael Onwenu, one of the highest graded rookies so far this year. And I think for the LA Chargers, with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, I think having Justin Jefferson in there as well, I think would be really benefit this offense. And I know they wouldn't have Justin Herbert in this situation, but I think Justin Jefferson going at 6, which is way higher than our pre-draft evaluation on him. But I think we can learn a lot as evaluators from Justin Jefferson and his success in the NFL so far this year. And that though he did not have reps against single coverage on the outside where you saw him winning, I still think there's a higher floor value than maybe we gave it credit for being able to win as consistently as he did from the slot, winning in contested catch situations, having the ball skills he had, the yak ability he had. And I'm not saying I don't think in any way, shape, or form, because even I think Matt LaFleur brought this up, one of the coaches brought this up, that the most important thing is creating separation against single coverage and winning at the line of scrimmage, that stuff. But I still think that the floor for a really, really productive slot receiver type, and even Justin Jefferson has won it outside this so far this year, is higher than maybe we gave credit for. So having him at 6, I think makes sense.
I will debate you here in terms of positional scarcity. You're not going to find a tackle like Mekhi Becton now at the top of round 2. You're not going to find a tackle like Mekhi Becton like pretty much ever in drafts. Like that's rare to see guys like that. You can find a kind of maybe in the second round, maybe not in a complete redraft, but like you can find receiving talent that can get comparable to what he's brought to the table. You're just not going to find that at tackle. So I'm going to go with Mekhi Becton, especially if you're the Chargers and you haven't found it for the past decade and a half apparently at tackle. I'm going to go with the Mekhi Becton and Justin Jefferson are similar players in that both of these guys we were lower on than maybe the consensus. But you've seen enough from Becton, even with the injuries, that he's obviously a top 6 pick if you redraft. I would say that. All right, number 7, Panthers. Staying at the tackle position for kind of the reasons I just outlined there in terms of the guys like Tristan Wirfs, Mekhi Becton, and now Jedrick Wills going to the Panthers. Don't come around every single year. Like there are a lot of tackle classes that do not have tackles as good as any of those 3 guys. They're rookie seasons. And so I'm going to go ahead and take one if I'm the Panthers. No Derek Brown here. Derek Brown doesn't even make my top 10, to be honest. No way. He wasn't making our top 10 even pre-draft. But Jedrick Wills here, I think the Panthers would have loved to have gotten him in a retrospect. Carolina Panthers, I have them taking, which I know he hasn't looked good this year, Jeffrey Okudah, which I feel like the pre-draft evaluation, the tools he brings, all that stuff still feel really good. And with how
crazy this offseason was and how bad all defenses are playing, I still think you can hold out for Jeffrey Okudah developing into a very good outside cornerback that could shadow corners or shadow receivers in the NFL down the road. Maybe next year or the year after, I think he does develop into that player. And I think the Carolina Panthers at 7, despite what we've seen through 10 weeks, which has included Devontae Adams completely beating the brakes off him, among other really big name NFL wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins had his way.
Yeah.
I still think Jeffrey Okudah is a top 10 player. He goes 7 to Carolina in my redraft.
I like that pick. He's going to make my top 10, but we'll get there in a sec. Cardinals, number 8. Again, I'm staying with the pre-draft, even though he's been good.
Yeah,
he just has not been a good situation. Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
Now we go to the Broncos, obviously. Their quarterback situation. Been a bit of a mess, but you watch him on a weekly basis. He's getting open. He's just not getting the targets, shall we say, share that Justin Jefferson is that helps you grade well.
I'm not sure if I brought up this story on the podcast or not, so if I'm retelling it, let me know. But do you know if you Google Drew Lock PFF, and to get to his player page is why I've done it. If you Google it, there's an article written by one of the Sports Illustrated affiliated sites. That is PFF throws shade at Drew Lock and his mom. And it's from a 3 high safeties.
This has to be for you.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah, I was
so
going to say,
on 3 high safeties, do you remember when
Drew Lock's
ESPN
mom.
did that redraft of the entire NFL?
Okay.
And they drafted Drew Lock at 15th or something. Remember?
Yeah.
And I
It
said,
was the Broncos guy just
he's like
trying to gain
I was
favor
blown away.
with
Blown
fans.
away. Everyone was blown away. That was insane. To
It
take
was.
of all the players in the NFL, you're gonna take Drew Lock when you're restarting as a franchise at 15. My take on, I think it was a 2-minute drill of 3 high safeties, which is a YouTube video series that we do. I said Drew Lock's mom doesn't take him at 15.
I was on that with you,
but that's
yeah.
not throwing shade at his mom. That's positive. His mom is a
his
better
mom's a good
evaluator.
judge of character.
Sorry.
His mom
Anyway,
should be
that
GM in the
article is
NFL.
absolutely hilarious, by the way. And I think
Was the guy taken aback? Whoever wrote it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, dude, he's writing for. I'm not throwing shade.
Well, I mean,
at
he brings up the mom. That just for clicks?
I feel like I respect for what he did. It definitely got pretty decent clicks, I'm sure. But it's hilarious, reading the article and he uses different variations of mom. It's mom, mother. It's I'm freaking dead, dude. It's really funny. But the headline is also fantastic. I don't think Drew Lock. Now, where would you take Drew Lock in a redraft now, ESPN? Because if you're taking him anywhere in the top 70, top 100, you're absurd. He has not played well this year. He threw 4 picks against the Raiders. The Raiders have arguably the worst coverage defense in the NFL. Nick Kwiatkowski had a one-hander. Jeff Heath had an interception in the red zone.
If you throw an interception to Jeff Heath, I think that's a prereq.
He stared down Jerry Jeudy
starters
in
in
a
the
slant
NFL
against
don't throw
obvious
picks
zone
to Jeff
coverage.
Heath. Yeah.
He stared down Jerry Jeudy in a slant against obvious zone coverage and threw it to Jeff Heath's chest.
Oh,
Jeff
yeah,
Heath
that one was really bad.
It was not a good interception. Either way, that article is hilarious. I encourage everyone to Google Drew Lock's mom. Don't Google Drew Lock's mom. Google
Lock
Drew Lock
PFF.
PFF, and you'll find that article, which I think is funny. All right, you had Cardinals taking Jeudy at 8. That's what got off on this tangent. I have Mekhi Becton going at 8 to the Arizona Cardinals, which, again, Mekhi Becton moves up after what he's done with the New York Jets. It goes 8 to the Cardinals. Who do you have the Jags taking?
I go Jeffrey Okudah here because the Jags are still a team that they can punt on this season, and they don't need a rookie. They care more about what you are in year 3 because that's kind of when they're going to start competing here. So I still believe in Okudah. I still believe in the position he plays being valuable. And even though he's gotten, like you said, torched a few times, I think in the end he'll be a quality NFL corner.
This is probably the hottest take of my top 10 redraft here. It's Chase Claypool
see this.
at number 9 to the Jacksonville
My Lord,
Jaguars.
he's
That
going
is
in.
That is a little over aggressive, but I've watched a ton of Chase Claypool because I thought going back to the tape and looking beyond the box score, because the box score fantasy football community is all about this kid. I mean, and they should be. But going back and watching him win against single coverage as often as he has, I think he's a very physical. I don't know, man. He's a very physical player. He's obviously very athletic, has really good straight line speed, and you just see him winning single coverage so often in the NFL. There were multiple times where I was watching his film this past week. I'm like, how did we not see more of this at Notre Dame? How did we not see him winning like this more at Notre Dame? Because he's beating the brakes off some of these, NFL quarterbacks running a vertical route tree and looking very good. I don't know how we didn't see more of it, but Chase Claypool at 9 to the Jacksonville Jags.
You're going Chase Claypool over Jerry Jeudy. It's our first second rounder, by the way.
That was a little
first
aggressive.
guy not in the first one. I'm just saying. We'll see.
That was a little aggressive.
But you're wrong. All right, number 10, Browns. Here's where I go. Justin Jefferson coming off the board. In retrospect, obviously, with Odell probably being done in Cleveland. Jarvis Landry maybe even being done in Cleveland after this year. We shall see. But I do think
Baker Mayfield maybe. No, just kidding.
I don't know.
It's he's in a bad place.
They're not gonna be bad enough to draft one. So maybe in free agency.
I do feel like the commercial market for backups is big, so I think he could definitely leverage that. I have number 10, Jedrick Wills Jr. The Cleveland Browns still get their guy, Jedrick Wills Jr. at 10. I think is the move for the redraft. All right, that's going to do it for our redraft here. We're going to move forward to our rookie and prospects preview, look at some matchups that we want to watch, some Greenline picks as well, and then we're going to dive into the Jordan Palmer interview. Can't believe we brought up Drew Lock's mom again on the podcast. It'd be interesting to see.
Friend of the pod.
I feel like there was some negative comments coming from me on that. I definitely respect the guy for writing an article. I just find it kind of hilarious. I think I would do it if I was writing for one of those sites where clicks are very important, all that type of stuff. I would have definitely done it. Anyway, rookie preview. Mike,
that's a headline where I'd have no dog in the game. Even if I didn't, I'd click on that.
Yes,
be like, whoa,
absolutely. Well, I wasn't even looking for it. I did Drew Lock PFF and I saw Drew Lock PFF throws shade at Drew Lock and his mom. I'm like, yes, I'm in. Yeah. You've got me.
He's watching our content at least.
At least he's watching our
clicks.
Yeah. Quinn's right.
You think Drew Lock's mom's that's gotten back to her?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Drew Lock's mom doesn't take him 15th overall in that draft.
Drew Lock's mom read it and is like, no, he was kind of right. I feel like she's on my side if she's on anybody's side. Quinn also edits the 3 high safeties 2-minute drill, which a little humble brag from Quinn there. Rookie preview. Let's go.
All right. I want to watch DeAndre Swift, second career start, hopefully. Maybe they saw enough of him actually and want to go back to Adrian Peterson after that electric performance. They're like, it's a little too razzle dazzle for us here in Detroit. We do things, hard nosed way, Detroit way. No, hopefully he's going in this one against the Panthers. Jeremy Chin had that ugly tackle attempt on that. That was one of the weirdest tackle attempts I've ever seen on that 98-yard run. Mm-hmm. Ronald Jones, like he had 30 yards to catch a guy and dives at his ankles.
On him.
Yeah, he had 30 yards to catch him. Was making up yard after yard. Like he probably made up 4 yards already, and then just like gives us a half-hearted swing at his ankles. Like
I'm glad we brought that up.
Catch him.
It was weird.
Yeah, it was weird. And he's had a missed tackle problem this year. That one was not really like a missed tackle problem. That was more just like a brain fart.
A mental fart. Chase Claypool versus CJ Henderson is a matchup I'm looking for. I just brought up Claypool, had him in top 10 in my redraft here. See him show up against CJ Henderson. I'm excited.
You just fucking love Chase Claypool.
I'm freaking in love with Chase Claypool, but I want to see him run more. And I think the Jags run enough single coverage where you'll see some good reps.
Yeah, he is electric to watch. I would say Chase.
His
Claypool,
nickname is also fantastic. Mapletron. You don't like it?
I hate the.
He's Canadian, so his nickname has to be Canadian.
Well, I hate the Watergate was Watergate, and then like something Gate.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. So Babytron, Mapletron,
yeah,
Megatron
it's like
Megatron.
Megatron is Megatron.
But also Megatron's not even like that's like a legit thing, right? Like Transformer,
and that's fine. But then having a play on words off of that.
Megatron's like a thing, like a Transformer or whatever. I sound like Shia LaBeouf, by the way. I feel like Shia LaBeouf in those Transformer movies was big, and like everyone was getting on board. And he was in Disturbia, and like he was like.
Did you watch this movie about his life? It was actually really sad.
No, I haven't.
A movie
Is
about
it good?
his own life. Yeah,
I watched this thing on Fast Times at Richmond.
It's called
High.
Honey or something.
I have not watched that.
Honey Boy.
But I feel like his career arc was decent. He was in Holes, which was shown.
Well, it wasn't decent because he went to rehab and was like an absolute monster for a while.
I didn't know he was an absolute monster. I respect him more for that.
Do you? I don't know.
Go ahead and.
All right, my next one here.
Match.
We're gonna go Chase Young against Joe Burrow's livelihood because he's going up against that Bengals offensive line. Keem Adinje has looked all right at left tackle there for them, but Chase Young hasn't been dominant, shall we say? Like he's had 2 pass rushing grades so far this season, all year over 70. He's kind of been just ho hum, and we thought week 1 that Philly game dominant, 2 sacks. He only has 3 now all season. Like he has not been the Nick Bosa, the Joey Bosa. I think it's just time to say that the Bosas are a little built differently than everyone else. Kind of like the Sewells now, which Noah Sewell looks fucking awesome. Yeah. Also, there's an older Sewell brother than Penny and Noah. How sad is that guy? He's not
so
like
he's Cooper Manning in a nutshell.
Basically.
Damn.
But
Cooper Manning though has made his fucking way.
He's rich as fuck,
dude. He does pregame, all this stuff. I don't even think he's that funny.
He turns like a stand-up comedian.
Yeah,
and he's not that. Yeah, exactly. Like Peyton's much funnier, but he kind of just rode some coattails.
I honestly had to say, kudos, buddy.
Hats off.
You made some plays.
Yeah,
you made some absolute plays. You got dealt a butt hand, and just rally. Okay, okay. I've seen worse hands. I'm sitting in one right now. But he didn't get dealt the best hand, like a Peyton and Eli.
Yeah.
Definitely a poor man's hand relative, but has made the most of it for sure.
He certainly has. But back to Chase Young, who, again, if he doesn't dominate this Cincinnati Bengals offensive line, not going to push the panic button, but I just don't think it's probably going to happen this year with him, which that's fine. You didn't draft him for this year if you're Washington. You draft him for what he can do in the future.
I have A.J. Terrell, who's looked a lot better than he did earlier in the season over the past few weeks, going against Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Jameis Winston, baby. He's back.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
And he's going to get tested. Everyone, someone who asked me the other day, is Jameis Winston going to be checking down that offense? I'm like,
no.
Is
Is Jameis Winston going to be checking down, period? No.
Yeah, that offense is not going to look like what it looked like with Drew Brees. It is going to be, he's going to throw seam routes so he's blue in the face because he can't help himself.
Yeah.
He
sees a guy. W's after this week, too.
He sees a guy running a little skinny post, and he just has to throw it. He doesn't care if there's, a safety bearing down on him, corner trailing him. He's going to fit it in that window. And so, I think A.J. Terrell is probably going to get a half dozen to a dozen targets. He's going to get tested. So I like that matchup. I'm going to go my last one here, a low-key one, a guy who was probably thought of as a safe pick coming out because he was an offensive lineman, and that's what, interior offensive linemen in the first round are always safe picks. But Cesar Ruiz has not looked good of late.
Always safe picks, right, Quinn? Billy Price, as safe as it gets with
Bengals fans
interior offensive lineman in the first.
Good kid. That's all you got to know. He got a game ball the other week, so that's all you got to know.
But he's allowed 14 pressures over his last 3 games. Pass blocking rates of 20.4, 20.8, and 2.7 this past week against San Francisco. And then San Francisco, that was Kinlaw and some other guy who I had honestly never even heard of before this past week, eating his lunch. So I can't even remember his name. Cesar Ruiz, that's worrisome when you're thinking this guy's a safe pick that you kind of shoehorned into your starting lineup by cutting Larry Warford there.
Yeah, that was.
But he's going up against Gray Jarrett. That's why I also mentioned.
Yeah, that'll be a good matchup for him. Yeah. I have Jerry Jeudy going against Brian Flores. No, Jerry Jeudy going against Brian Flores, Xavier Howard, Byron Jones. He's going to be tested. Drew Lock's going to be tested.
That'd be fun to watch. After the fact, just every route, just see how
he does. Absolutely. And Xavier Howard too, in single coverage concepts is very good. I really like watching Xavier Howard play football, and I think he's thriving, absolutely thriving in Brian Flores' defense. Since week 5 on that Miami, 5-game winning streak now, he has allowed a 47.2 passer rating, 5th best in the NFL. And Byron Jones on the opposite side is up there inside the top 15. They are legit. That outside cornerback duo is legit.
The one thing that Jeudy, if there has been he needs to improve on this, it's when guys do get their hands on him, not the line of scrimmage, I still think he gets off the line exceptionally well, but 3 or 4 yards downfield. He's got to be able to kind of
get through that,
get those hands off of him, be able to keep himself cleaner than he has at times.
NFL Greenline picks.
Physical corners that will.
Are you ready for NFL Greenline picks?
I'm more than ready.
NFL Greenline picks. So NFL Greenline is a betting dashboard that offers projections on the spread, total, and money line. It is available to PFF Elite subscribers. Firmly recommend you check it out. And we had someone reach out to me on Instagram via DM. Which a lot of girls hit me up on DMs, sliding through, especially once the podcast clips come up.
I can't even read them all at this point.
Honestly, I'm in a very similar spot. And they're all models, which is it's not Drew Lock's mom. And they're all models, which is kind of crazy as well, which is how do you guys all talk to each other?
I don't even respond if they're not anymore.
Anyway, NFL Greenline. So somebody reached out to me on Instagram asking, could we do more? I don't have an extra NFL Greenline pick this week, but I have a bonus college football one. So stay tuned to the next part. But my Greenline pick this week is Los Angeles Rams, going to Tampa Bay. I know they're going coast to coast, plus 3.5 against Tampa Brady. I think the Rams have been playing good football of late, and I think Sean McVay is pulling the puppet strings enough to where I think he keeps this game within 3.
Is Ali Marpet going to be out? If you tell me Ali Marpet's going to be out, I can get on board with that.
Yeah, because Aaron Donald's going
to eat.
They're mixing up the interior offensive line. They had Ryan Jensen with the guard
Jensen
and stuff.
Switched to guard, but he didn't look great at guard. Dude's center. It's just not easy to make that switch midseason. So if you tell me that he's going to be out, I'll get on board with that.
Cool.
My one though here is the Pittsburgh Steelers, 10-point favorite against the Jaguars. Am I correct?
Yep.
The Jacksonville Jaguars. I wrote that down, but I was unsure. I don't know why. They're just Jake Luton, quarterback. You kidding me? like going up against Steelers defense.
That's a great. That's a good soundbite.
It's more just like
That's a soundbite like on a Jacksonville radio station after they upset them, and then like they're compiling everybody like Jake Luton. You kidding me? And then like they got Shannon Sharp. I'm like the Jacksonville Jaguars. Are you kidding? Like, all that stuff. That's freaking hilarious.
But yeah, it's basically just like, do you trust a 6th round quarterback who's a rookie to go up against the single best pass rush in the NFL that blitzes more than anyone else in the NFL? Do you trust that to end even close? I do not.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I'm out.
Minus
on the
10.
Jaguars.
Steelers minus
covering
10.
this. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Moving to the prospect preview and then our NCAA Greenline picks and then the Jordan Palmer interview, of course. My first matchup is I have 3 question marks or 2 question marks in parentheses next to this one because I don't know if he's going to play, but I'd like to see Rondale Moore play.
We've highlighted this as a matchup. This is the 3rd time we've highlighted Rondale Moore as our matchup.
They're supposed to play
watch.
Friday night, 7:30 at Minnesota, Purdue Boilermakers +3, or no, Minnesota +3. So we have a situation where Rondale Moore needs to suit up. I want to see it. I need to see some more Rondale Moore.
I have a theory that he never actually opted back in, but they just said he did to try to drum up interest in Purdue football and like help with
That's an
recruiting.
interesting theory.
They're like, Rondale's coming back, but he's actually never even been back to Purdue. Like he's out in LA training the whole time.
That would be kind of rough. That's rude to Boilermakers stands, you know?
I'm sorry, Joey Molinaro had to do it. But yes, I would love to watch Rondale Moore play football if they allow him to play football and if he's still on the team. We'll see. My first one to watch, I'm going to stay the line of scrimmage here. No, actually, I'm going to switch. I'm going to pivot my first one to watch. I'm going to just watch Trevor Lawrence play football.
Nice.
Because I didn't get to watch him, a couple weeks ago against my Irish. Thank God I didn't get to watch him now. The man, it's just beautiful to watch. That's Trevor Lawrence against Florida State is who he's going up against. They're 34.5-point favorites. I expect them to cover. He's a fucking monster. I love watching Trevor play
34.5-point favorites on the road at Florida State. Are the Florida State Seminoles going to get dogged like that at home? That's an interesting line to maybe take Florida State. If it clears 35, gets through that key number, I don't know. I'd start to think about it.
He didn't have symptoms, right, from COVID?
He had mild symptoms.
He
He did, yeah.
Okay. So maybe he's like it I had some lasting effects. I still am not back up to where I was.
Yeah, you
like,
kind of
running
suck
before.
of late. Your work's been.
I know, like I have been.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna lie. So
something we're working on behind the scenes, by the way, while we're talking about Clemson, I'm working with our producer, Matt Stopsky, who, if you don't know, fantastic guy, does a really good job of getting guests for the podcast. Trying to get DJ Uiagalelei's dad on the podcast.
Ooh.
He's
Good
got
side
some
note.
Stories.
Have you followed his Twitter?
No.
Do you follow him on Twitter? No. Big Dave on Twitter.
Oh my God.
Is
I'm in.
electric.
I'm sold.
I haven't told you about this. Oh my God. He retweets everyone who will tweet at him. Every single person that tweets at him, he retweets.
So I'm tweeting at him tonight.
Gotta. And he said he used to shatter backboards for his national team.
What?
Yeah. Big Dave would shatter backboards. He said he was a basketball player. We need to get Big
got to
Dave
make a
on the
play. We're getting him on the podcast. I need to hear these takes.
Not quite draft related because DJ is a couple years away, but
I don't give a shit.
This guy.
I need to take out Trevor Lawrence. I would love him to come on the pod and be like, "Yeah, my son's better." I need it. I need that take on the podcast right now.
Quinn, on the YouTube show, we need to get the picture of his new profile pic he tweeted the other day. It's absolutely hilarious. It's him in this big ass gold chain. He looks like The Rock in that famous picture of The Rock with like the fanny pack on.
I'm excited.
Is he doing that on purpose or is this like
no, unironically?
Okay.
He thinks he looks
incredible.
I'll stitch it in.
Okay.
Incredible. Okay, I only have one more matchup here, but it's Alabama versus Kentucky, and I just want to watch that defense go against Kentucky. I think Kentucky has some weapons, 2 talented offensive tackles. If Kennard can't play in this one, I think he was hurt. I'm not sure, but Dylan Moses, Patrick Surtain, Josh Jobe has kind of come onto the scene. Obviously, Christian Barmore. Like every week, watching Alabama go against SEC competition is must-watch football. I think Kentucky actually has some firepower offensively, where you can see some interesting tests to a point where this is tape you're watching in January, February, March when you're looking at some of these prospects.
Yeah, Alabama's defense fucking loaded. There's a lot of prospects every single week with them. Can't hate on that. I'm going to highlight 2 line of scrimmage matchups though here myself. Christian Darrisaw, Virginia Tech, left tackle.
Big riser in the pre-draft process.
Massive. He's awesome. He's going probably his toughest test all year against Pittsburgh here. Patrick Jones, Rashad Weaver. We've highlighted Weaver a bunch. He's in our top 50. Big fan of his game. 2 big, long edge defenders. Could give him some trouble. We'll see. I don't think it will because Darrisaw's that good. Another one to highlight here, South Carolina, Missouri. Larry Borum. We've talked about him early on in the season, didn't allow pressure against Alabama. Well, he hasn't allowed pressure all season, actually. 4 games, has had a minor injury. I think should be back this week against South Carolina. Going up against Kingsley Enagbare. I should probably look up the pronunciation on that. Enagbare. However you feel like pronouncing that, go be my guest. Junior edge rusher, 90.2
like
pass rushing grade. It's a free world, baby. Do what you want. But he's 6'4", 270. This guy can scoot also at 6'4", 270. He pops off the tape. Really unrefined, but last 3 weeks, 91.6 pass rushing grade, 67.3 and 89.2. He's coming on strong as of late. Going up against Larry Borum. Excited to see that. Excited to see Kingsley because that guy could be a big riser in this draft process.
NCAA Greenline picks, which you can get in your PFF Elite subscription. I have 2. Bonus. Okay. Indiana plus 20.5 against Ohio State, which is
against
rare.
your Buckeyes. You said they're the best team in the country.
I know they're the best team in the country, but if that number gets to 21, which is a key number, obviously, you hammer Michael Penix Jr., Freifogel, all those guys. I think Indiana can keep this one 21. Quinn brought up a good comment too before the podcast that depending on what the first half line is, this feels like a game where maybe Ohio State could start out a bit slower. The first 15 plays for Indiana, the game script's got to be elite this week. They kind of put up a touchdown to keep it close in the first half line. I think 21, it's at 20.5 right now where I'm still willing to put some cheddar down. At 21, I'm getting a little bit more interested. I think 21 makes sense. And the other one is USC -3. I think USC -3 is another pick I like this week.
USC is a terrible football team this year. They're the luckiest football team in the country.
Stop.
They are.
Keaton Slovis is the future number 1 overall pick, a.k.a. Anthony Trash.
Who was it that tweeted? Who's the Greg Gabriel? Had one of my favorite tweets because, one, I hate USC. And also Greg Gabriel is just like old man yelling at cloud, whatever meme. But he said, USC is Michigan and Penn State. They just been luckier this year. Yeah. But I mean, they have. They should have lost their first 2 games. They really got lucky.
I think USC is a good football team. I think Slovis has started out slow, but I think they'll be better. You know how bad California has been wrecked by COVID-19 and the forest fires? Come on. This guy hasn't had his mind on football in a long time. He's back in it. He's learning a little bit. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Elijah Vera Tucker, Keaton Slovis.
If that's your reasoning,
it's not my reasoning. It's not my reasoning. It's not my reasoning. I think Keaton Slovis's best 2020 football, though, we have not seen yet.
That's fair.
And I think it's coming against Utah, the overrated Utah Utes.
I hope so. If he's going to be the number 1 overall pick, Trash, wherever he's at.
He's coming. He's coming on the pod.
I leave the pod for 2 weeks because I'm struck with COVID-19. As you said, going through some hardships. There's forest fires in California, too.
Where you met your girlfriend, right? In the COVID-19
yeah, actually
vacuum.
Did.
Nice.
And then you guys start talking nice about USC, trashing Notre Dame. We got to get back to
trashing Ian Book. And since that podcast where we completely took a shit on Ian Book, he has actually looked really good. He's one of the highest graded quarterbacks over the past few weeks.
He's still, no one can convince me he's an NFL prospect, though.
No,
still.
Absolutely not.
He's not.
The book is out on Book. That's your next article this week. Which, shout out, humble brag, got
no one's
Lamar
ever
Jackson
made, no one's
article
ever
this
made
week.
that.
The Lamar Jackson article on PFF.com that you wrote is awesome.
Oh, thank you. I
Big fan of it. Definitely encourage everyone to listen. Do you have a Greenline pick?
I did have a Greenline pick. It is Wisconsin, a good football team, against Northwestern, who is somehow ranked 19th because it's an absurd year and there are teams ranked very high that should not be. But Northwestern is scooted by Iowa, Nebraska, Purdue. Yes, they blew out Maryland, but somehow they got to be ranked 19th. They're going up against now a good football team. They're not going to come close to Wisconsin. You have this line before any games are played this year. It's 15? Northwestern went 3-9 last year. They lost their best player, Rashawn Slater, is opted out. They've lost more than Michigan did to opt-outs.
Why are people fading Wisconsin? Because they put that freaking Michigan's pants down on live TV.
That's why I can't believe this line 7.5. Go make some money. Wisconsin's going to put the boots to them. I just don't.
You got to bring up the Northwestern comment that you had.
Oh yeah, and so I went to go look up Northwestern schedule to see who their exactly who their wins were to remember, and the first 3 results on Google are their academic calendar, fall schedule for classes. That's how you know you are not
Try
a football
that with
program.
Ohio State.
Yeah,
Try that
exactly.
With Michigan.
You'll get
even
football schedule, basketball schedule. Lacrosse schedule. You'll get a lot of schedules before you get to their academic calendar. But Northwestern built different, shall we say.
Are you taking any units at Northwestern online maybe this year? Did you get into any classes? That's what I'm saying.
No.
You're not pursuing your master's? You hate to see that. All right, well, that's going to do it for the Greenline picks here and the rookie prospects preview. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into the Jordan Palmer interview, which is a fantastic one. Definitely encourage you to stick around. Now joining 2-for-1 Drafts podcast is none other than Jordan Palmer, former NFL quarterback, now works with a ton of young quarterbacks in the NFL, prospects as well. Former Cincinnati Bengal. We were just talking about all the great things about Cincinnati. You love Cincinnati, Jordan, right? I
love Cincy. My wife, I lived there for 4 years. Obviously, my brother was there for years before I got there, so I had been coming and going. And I grew up in Southern California, and I live here now, and so I miss the seasons changing. I miss winter and Christmas, and I'm a bow hunter, so I miss. And we actually still have a farm out there, so I miss being out there when in the fall and the winter, and being in a tree stand and all that stuff. So I got a lot of great memories from there, and it's fun that Joe Burrow went there, and I have a bunch of different connections that kind of go back to Cincinnati that kind of keep bringing me back, and I love it.
I was going to say, you worked with Joe Burrow in the pre-draft process. Would you give him any recommendations or any tips about Cincinnati?
Oh, yeah, a bunch. Now, a lot's changed since I was there. But yeah, I think there's obviously some folks that I was friends with when I was there and still have a relationship that are, great people to connect Joe with. And then I know I'm sure there's a lot of turnover on restaurants and all that stuff too, but I'm sure there's still Nada downtown, one of Chef David Faulkner's places. And so you still have those places, Jeff Ruby. And honestly, I had a dog when I was there. So just like there's some great parks, Alt Park, is just an awesome spot to go cruise around. So I knew enough tips and tricks to be able to make him dangerous.
I think Jeff Ruby now has a Joe Burrow steak, and I think it comes with like a Creole crawfish topping or something along those lines. So Jeff Ruby's definitely paying dividends or paying Joe Burrow his respect. Let's talk more about Joe Burrow and this rookie season that's been for him. I mean, obviously you have the abbreviated offseason, no preseason due to COVID-19, and he's still, in our opinion, more than exceeded expectations behind what's been a makeshift offensive line in Cincinnati, guys in and out. He had 4 missing starters a few weeks ago, still trying to get healthy along the offensive line. What has your opinion been of Joe Burrow so far? Where has he exceeded expectations for you, and where do you think he needs to improve?
Well, I think this was a difficult offseason with the uncertainty of everything and no OTAs, no rookie minicamp. Let's do some math here, okay? So rookie minicamp, you usually do 3 to 5 practices. OTAs, I think you get 15. And then you do usually 2 mini camps, or 1 mini camp, I guess, if you don't have a new coach. That's a lot of practice you missed out on. That's a lot of seeing it, walking through it, talking about it, repping it out in practice, going back in the film room, talking about, okay, all the different, that's all that. He didn't get any of that. He just got a training camp and then preseason games. No preseason games. And so I think the biggest thing that I'm surprised with, and I'm not going to be very surprised by much of his success. I have very high expectations for him, as he does for himself. But I just am surprised at how smooth the transition went. I mean, first week, Chargers, that pass rush, and basically he drove 90-something yards and threw a touchdown pass to win the game. It was a push off by A.J. Green, and then they missed the field goal. But as far as what Joe did, like he in his first game went off, drove 90 yards, and just no flinch. And I think that transition, we're all impressed by with what he did at LSU. We all watched it. We all were in awe of it. But it's still different going from college to pro. And the fact that there has been 0 let off, it's pretty incredible.
What's like Joe Burrow's ceiling? 5 years from now, what are we talking about Joe Burrow as in the pantheon of quarterbacks in the NFL?
Well, the quarterback position is so dependent on the environment that they're in, and the resources that they have at their disposal. And so a lot of this depends on what the Bengals are able to do via the draft, via free agency, via just coaching and developing players and getting players better and decisions. So obviously, goes without saying, Joe is going to be somewhat tied to the decisions that are made around him. But I don't really see Joe having a ceiling for this reason. He's one of those guys, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but there's a couple of these guys where they actually think they're the best player in the league, and they actually think that they can win every game because their team has them. You follow that? Mm-hmm. Like, Joe thinks he can win every game because they have Joe, right? So again, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but there are guys that I think Patrick thinks that way. I think Drew thinks that way. I think Aaron thinks that way. I think Russell thinks that way. And I know that Joe thinks that way as a rookie, week 1. That's what he thought. And so when you have that mentality, and it's not that like, I think I can, or my mom says that I'm the best or any of that stuff. It's just a genuine belief that because if you're up today, then you should win. And because Joe has that, there's not really a ceiling because it's not about physical. It's not about how strong he gets or fast he gets or accurate he gets. He's young. He's got a ways to go in every single category there is. They all do. But from a mental standpoint and how mature he is and how he handles brand new situations that he has no experience handling, the way that he consistently handles those well, I'm certainly not going to put the ceiling on him.
I have one more follow-up for Joe Burrow, and then we can move to some other quarterbacks in the NFL. I think a lot of the criticism I've seen from other, quarterback analysts, et cetera, has been arm talent. He doesn't have an arm that can last in the NFL. He can't make that, opposite hash out route like other quarterbacks can. What's your opinion of arm talent and its importance in the NFL, and how do you kind of mitigate those concerns? Because right now it's an arm talent-driven league. If you look at it from, a bird's eye view, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Aaron, these guys that have really, really good arms are kind of what's leading the NFL. When you talk about the top quarterbacks in the league, what's your opinion of the importance of arm talent, Joe Burrow's arm talent, and how you kind of overcome maybe not being a Kyler Murray or Josh Allen in the NFL?
Yeah, I think the foundation for quarterbacks to play well and play at a high level for a long period of time, it's way more tied to their ability to control the football. Now, velocity plays a role in that, but controlling the football. Touch, anticipation, accuracy, throwing people open, changing where you're actually aiming while you're throwing because something's happening mid-throwing motion. Just your control of the football, plus the elements, water, snow, whatever, wind. So your ability to control the football is absolutely the most important characteristic as far as I'm concerned. Velocity is a nice to have, but it's not a prerequisite. And it's not my opinion. Look at some of the greatest of all time. Like, no one describes Tom Brady as the GOAT because his arm talent, or Drew Brees because his arm talent. That's not that. They have plenty, but there's the guy with all, like Peyton Manning as well. Like, there's the guys with all the touchdown records and all the completion percentage records and all the yards records and all the basically the records that anybody cares about. And so I think it's a nice to have. But I don't think it's a prerequisite for success. Now, if you don't have a super strong arm and struggle to control the ball, then you better have something else. And like Lamar Jackson is an example to me of somebody who's got a pretty strong arm, totally strong enough, right? But he's not, nobody compares him and Patrick. But I think he struggles to control the football with accuracy and timing and even on the completions. But that's okay because he has something else. He will absolutely score from any point on the field. And so you have to have something else to offset your deficiencies, whether you're short, whether you have a weak arm, whether you're not that smart or don't see it as fast, like whatever your deficiencies are, you have to have something to offset it or you're in trouble or you're a backup. And so with Joe, he's got more than enough arm, and his confidence and his understanding of the game, the X's and O's, protections, where his issues are, all that stuff is his something else.
So you work closely with Josh Allen as well, the Buffalo Bills, and he took a almost Joe Burrow-esque leap from year 2 to year 3 here in the NFL that Joe Burrow took at LSU. What was the driver behind that? What really changed in his, either whether it's mental or the way he's playing the game right now, in your eyes, having obviously worked with him closely?
Yeah. He likes to close his eyes and guess and chuck it really hard, and it's really just worked out for him so far this week. No, I'm kidding. With Josh, this dude is a worker, man. He's really only played meaningful football like for a couple of years now. We think about it like how old somebody is, but the reality is he was in junior college like 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, look, that's and a junior college you've never heard of. Right.
Yeah.
So like, this is all new. This guy's still in the phase of learn how to do it. How do I do it right? How do I do it consistent? He hasn't arrived. If he ends up MVP this year, he's going to show up in the offseason and try and figure out how to get better, because he's only been doing it kind of the right way, playing for really good coaches in Buffalo. Like, this is his third year. He's only been doing it a little bit. And so with Josh, though, I think, he works really hard. A lot of these guys do, though. his thing is his ability to take something that is different for him, like a mechanical thing, and then put it in a game, put it in where it shows up in the game really fast. When anybody wants to change something mechanically, you got to be two things. You got to be all in. You can't spend a lot of time questioning it or going, I don't know, whatever. And then the second thing is, it's really underrated. To be coachable and to really change something, you got to be athletic, because you got to be able to take muscle memory that you've been doing it this way for so long and change it. And it actually takes an athlete. I don't care what your 40 time is, but it takes an athlete to be in tune with their body enough to say, okay, this is the old way, now this is the new way, and separate those things. A poor athlete has a hard time with that. Or a guy in his late 30s has a hard time with that. And so Josh is those two things. But I'll tell you what, there's a group of people that are not getting enough credit, and that is Brian Daboll and that is Ken Dorsey. These guys do an amazing job game planning, teaching him, helping. I mean, all coaches get paid to coach. I get that. But Brian Daboll and Ken Dorsey and that staff that they've assembled in Buffalo has been, I mean, just dynamite this year, not just on the play calling and the play design, but on managing their quarterback, developing their quarterback, pulling back the reins on their quarterback, hitting the gas on their quarterback, all the things that those guys have to do. And they have a unique bond, a great relationship, and it's why they're scoring the way that they are. And Josh is playing the way that he is.
I mean, Brian Daboll's on his way to a head coaching job. I mean, that's just how good he's been in Buffalo. And I think with both Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, you talk about situation and trying to get better. With Josh Allen adding Stephon Diggs, getting John Brown in free agency, Cole Beasley, adding along that offensive line, they have really been aggressive with improving the situation around Josh Allen, including who's coaching on the sidelines. I think that kind of naturally pivots the conversation to Sam Darnold, another quarterback you've worked with closely who has not been in a situation where he's seen, the surrounding pieces around him drastically improve. While they've swung the bat on a guy like Denzel Mims out of Baylor, tried to add pieces here and there, he has not been a guy playing behind a good offensive line in his career, had, an elite coaching staff on the side that are doing things similar to what Brian Daboll and company are doing. How much has the situation in New York played a factor in Sam Darnold's development? A guy that when he came out of USC, everyone was high on for the tools, the mental processing, all of those things.
It's everything. It's just totally dependent on the whole entire situation. When Josh and Sam came out that year, they went to eerily similar situations, right? I mean, they went to a team where both those O-lines were bad. Josh's main receiver, that when he got there, his best receiver was Kelvin Benjamin.
Oh man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're in turmoil. New coaching staff, new guys, a lot of key new guys. And the difference is Brandon Beane. Brandon Beane, the general manager for the Buffalo Bills, went out and got Derek Anderson to bring in a veteran in the room to be around Josh. And then when Derek left, then he brought in Matt Barkley. And then he brought in Ken Dorsey, who's a former quarterback who's played at a high level, whose thing wasn't arm talent. It was touch and feel and accuracy. So he comes from a different perspective. Genius. Brian Daboll has called plays in championship games and won those games at Alabama and New England. So he's a guy, and he's a tough, hard-nosed guy. Brian Daboll's from Buffalo, New York, born and raised, right? And so the weather, all that. Then you make the moves to go get Josh, the cold weather, the tough guy. He is so Buffalo. You had Cole Beasley and John Brown last year. Then you go make the Diggs thing happen. You draft a young running back. It's a pretty good situation. And with Sam, what he got that second year was a new coach, a new GM, and a really weird order. And Le'Veon Bell, the highest paid running back in the league at that time, it kind of doesn't really fit, and it just hasn't worked. And so, I mean, statistically speaking, there's probably a massive gap between Sam and Josh. But is there a gap? I don't know. I don't know which way the gap is, because it's hard to compare two players in drastically different situations. But I know this. Sam Darnold is, from a talent perspective and an ability perspective, and I'm uniquely positioned to say this, one of the most talented young quarterbacks in this league. So if the Jets point to the right direction, they've made some great moves. Becton is a really good player. We'll see what happens with Mims. I like Bernard Perryman. I really like Jamison Crowder. There's some good moves that are happening there. And so if they can piece this thing together, Sam Darnold is absolutely, whether it's there, and I don't know anything, whether it's there or somewhere else, Sam's going to be a really good starter for a long time in this league. These first couple years that were filled with injuries and just bad offense and losses, like that's just going to shape him into becoming a better player. But it's absolutely just a matter of time for Sam Darnold. And a bunch of people are going to hear that and go, yeah, but he saw ghosts on Monday Night Football. I'm just telling you, you're wrong.
All right, that actually with the Jets makes a good transition to the 2021 quarterback class, because at those stands right now, they haven't won a game. They'd be picking first if the season ended, and it looks like a very, very talented quarterback class. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence at the top. What are your thoughts on Lawrence, Fields, and now Zach Wilson and Trey Lance? How good is this quarterback class coming out?
I think it could be a really good class. I think Trevor Lawrence is as much of a lock as there is. It's just, exactly what he's going to be and what he's going to mean. And it's going to come down to the last 5 minutes of what we've been talking about. Whoever takes him, what do they do around him? What do they build around him? And on that, there's a couple of quarterbacks that are in these great situations where the timing was perfect. I look at Patrick Mahomes and his entry point into Kansas City, the sitting behind Alex Smith, the Andy Reid, and then the wideout, and they piece it together. That's an amazing situation for Patrick. Not discrediting anything he's doing, but it's a great situation. Lamar Jackson, that place is built around him, right? Jared Goff, that coach, that system, his fourth best receiver had 10 targets the other day, Josh Reynolds. They're going to get rid of him because they've got other guys that are awesome too, and a nice tight end and a good run game. So I just look at those. And now Josh Allen. It's kind of that fourth young guy in an ideal situation. Baker, he's had 3 head coaches. Sam, we just talked about. Josh Rosen, that was a tough situation. Josh Rosen's better than people think. Just terrible situation. So this next draft class, I don't think we're going to evaluate them off of, Zach Wilson can do these things, but Justin Fields is this. And then, Trey Lance is really unique at these things. I don't really care about any of that stuff. It's who picks who and what do they do around them.
I think that's a really good take.
I think honestly, Trey Lance goes 4th out of those 4 and goes to a great situation, he'll be the best.
I think where the NFL is going, and I think you outlined that clearly, is that the quarterback position is no longer, we have to get my guy, the guy that fits my system. It's the guy, the pocket passer, whoever, baby. It's like, let's go get the best guy and build our entire offense around him. Like what the Baltimore Ravens did with Lamar Jackson, like what the Buffalo Bills are doing with Josh Allen. Like that is where the NFL is trending, because you can see now, if you have a talented quarterback that is drafted inside the top 10, top 15, you can build an offense that wins with him. Patrick Mahomes is an outlier in that he probably have success in any system, but he definitely benefits from Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, that offensive line led by Mitchell Schwartz. I think that's definitely an interesting opinion. Who after the big 3? So you have, or arguably the big 3 being Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance. Big 4. We throw Zach Wilson in there as well. I know there's some other names that are intriguing people. Mac Jones of Alabama, Kyle Trask of Florida. Are there names that are outside the kind of well-known names right now that you're looking at as legit quarterback prospects in 2021?
Yeah, I like both those guys. The 2 guys that I see is Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati. I spent a lot of time with Jordan Love last year. So far, I don't really see a big difference between Desmond Ridder and Jordan Love. Jordan Love's arm might be a little bit more live, but he's not as much of a runner as Desmond is. And they're kind of like really mature, good dudes who are smart. I just don't see a big difference. Mm-hmm. The differences would be that Desmond's played against a lot better competition, had a lot more success. They're undefeated. I think they're ranked 4th, 5th, 6th, something like that in the country. But he's got a super quick release and a really bright future. So Desmond Ridder is a guy that I think is going to get really hot at the end. And another guy who is going to creep up from further back, but he's going to creep up, is Shane Buechele from SMU. He's been prolific. He was drafted as a baseball player, athlete, competitor. Started off at Texas, then went to SMU, and he's basically just thrown a bunch of touchdowns, no picks, and won most of the games he's played in at SMU, kind of turned that program around. So I think that's another guy where he may get drafted, outside of the 2nd, 3rd round, but once he gets in there, we see the Jake Lutons, we see Gardner Minshew's, we see Kyle Allen's, like we see all these guys get chances to play. He's one of those guys where if he gets a chance to play, he's probably not going to come out. And so those are two names that kind of stick out to me. But it's also early. I haven't really done a deep dive. I kind of in December is when I kind of break down everybody. So of those top 4 guys, I don't even know how I'd rank 2, 3, and 4. Trevor's the top guy in my opinion, but I like Trey Lance a lot. I think Justin Fields brings some unique things, but I haven't really broken him down yet. Based off of what I'm hearing from the people that I think are smart, and from what I've seen thus far, Zach Wilson might be the second quarterback taken off the board.
Wow. There you have it. This quarterback class, man, is going to be so good. Jordan, this was fantastic. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast. We'll have to get you on closer to the draft, maybe after you do that December deep dive in the quarterback class, because this was great. Really appreciate you coming on.
Happy to. Thanks, guys.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.